Welcome to the class, the Eightfold Path, Buddhism and Mindfulness. Just as a disclaimer, the class isn't really designed to make us monks or Tibetan lamas. So whatever you can take away, hey, I like your hat. I got one too. But whatever you can take away from the class, borrow from the information. Because in the words of the Dalai Lama, Buddhism isn't so much a religion as it is a path to help accentuate the path you're already on. So it's like a nice pair of shoes. You know, you got a closet full of shoes already, but every blue moon, you want to put on a nice outfit. So you grab that special pair of shoe. And that's kind of what Buddhism does. It helps to heighten your own spiritual work. And it does some therapeutic stuff also, if you kind of work with it. So to get started, I want to say welcome to those that are in the class and also to those that are also watching over Facebook. Just as a slight disclaimer, if you're watching on Facebook, I'll make sure that my movements aren't too sharp, so you won't feel like the Matrix with all of this extra stuff, because there is a 20-second lag. So if you are watching on Facebook and you have Zoom up, there might be a little delay. So I asked the moderator to mute everyone, except for me if you can. And the moderators are standing by both here in the Zoom class and also on Facebook. So if you have questions and you're in the class, feel free to type them in the chat. And if you also have questions and you're watching on Facebook, feel free to type them on Facebook. And if you're watching after the class has been had, I'll also be around throughout the week or so to answer questions, and other moderators and administrators for Unity of Birmingham's Facebook page will also be around. So we'll definitely be around to answer your questions. So let's get started. Let's get started with the meditation. This particular meditation is a way to embody our whole selves. I was giving a little description earlier. This is a way to balance out what I call our affirmation work. Myrtle Fillmore talked a lot about affirmations and denials. So most of the time we do affirmation work, but we leave things unsaid because we don't balance it out with denial work. So if we say stuff like, I am the head, but not the tail, it balances out both ends. But this is from a more Eastern standpoint. So this meditation, just to kind of type it in the chat, the name of it is Tong Lin, and I'll put it in here, Tonglen. And what Tong Lin means essentially is taking a deep breath and inhaling the sins of the world, inhaling the mistakes of the world, inhaling your bad day. I know we want to get rid of the bad day, but inhaling all of the drama and the trauma and the agitation. And then on the exhale, we're going to breathe positivity into life. So we're going to inhale the mess and exhale positivity and light. So when you do this kind of meditation, you balance out your work. So you got the affirmation and the denial. You got the good and the bad. So you become the rooted center, so that if you're experiencing bad, you had a stressful day and that's all you have is stress and there's no light coming in your day, it's a reminder that the light is always there. You can take the good and the bad. You can find the poison in the good and then in the bad. And then for the good, you can just add more good to it. So let's get started. Take a deep breath, inhale. Imagine you are inhaling all of the negativity from your day. And as you exhale, you are exhaling positivity and light. Inhale again. All the negativity and stress. And you're exhaling positivity and light. Inhale again. All the worryation, doubt, fear, guilt, shame. And on the exhale, you're letting it out. And so allow yourself to naturally breathe and allow your mind to bring to you anything that it wants to bring. If it's negative, don't fight it, just blow it out. Like you're outing a candle. Inhale. Exhale. And while you are naturally breathing, I want you to imagine that you are the Buddha, that you are the Christ, and you are sitting under a beautiful tree, whatever your favorite tree is, whether it's the Bodhi tree, whether it's an oak tree, whatever your favorite tree is, imagine you're sitting at the root of it. And on this tree, while you are inhaling negativity and breathing out positivity, and you're filtering out the dark and making it light, imagine on that tree, instead of flowers, imagine there are elders, your superhero team, all of the teachers that have influenced you, and the guides, the Buddha, the Christ, all of the wonderful spiritual heroes that are both living and not living. Some of you may have your grandmother on the tree. Some of you may have that grandfather figure. Some of you may have a sibling who's always giving you good advice, or a best friend, or a spiritual hero, or a teacher, or a favorite author. Whoever is on that tree of yours, place them there and sit under that wisdom, so that you, as you are inhaling the negativity and exhaling positivity, you're also being endowed with the power of all of your wisdom teachers. As a subtle reminder that while you're doing this alchemical work, you are not alone. You are always surrounded by a cloud of witnesses, other Buddhas, other Christs that have lived and walked these shoes that we wear on this earth, whether it be Thich Nhat Hanh, the Dalai Lama, or the greatest teacher that you can imagine. Imagine you were sitting underneath that wisdom umbrella. Feel them leading and guiding you, leading and guiding your every step, leading and guiding your next move, leading and guiding your next decision. Feel them strengthening your body as you're doing this work. Feel them strengthening your heart as you're doing this work. Feel them strengthening your mind as you're doing this work. And just sit under that wisdom and absorb it. Feel it running through your veins, giving you newfound strength and energy for the journey. And together, let's go into the silence for a few moments. And when you're ready, on the inhale, open your eyes. And on the exhale, come back to the room. And so it is. And so it is. All right, now that we are nice and settled, if you were here on last week, and you kind of remember one thing, just to kind of facilitate discussion and make this a team effort, who can hop on the mic real quick and just give me a one-liner of something that they remembered from the discussion or something they took away from last week? Or type a comment in the chat. Moderators are standing by. Last week, we talked about right view. Right view. And if you weren't in class on last week, who can tell me what they think right view means? Without even if you don't know anything about Buddhism or this kind of practice or Eastern thought, when you hear the notion of right view or realistic view, what does that mean to you? Anybody?
Just a reminder, everybody's muted, so if you want to talk, you'll have to unmute yourself.
I know when I first heard that, it made me think, well, then there is also wrong view or right view. But what I'm coming to understand is it's more of a balanced perspective on life.
I like that, Miss Jamie, a balanced perspective on life. And I like how you phrased it, because when we, and that's one of the things and I'm sure you've seen it with spiritual practice. Miss Diane said understanding, and I think we talked about going within to understand. Yep. Miss Smith said reality, compassion, no judgment. Exactly. All of you guys are, for lack of a better term, correct. Because when we get into right view, that word right really messes us up, because when we jump into right, then we're back into its opposite, wrong. And we have this right versus wrong. And one of the analogies that we came up with was, imagine you have two friends and you love them both dearly, and they both are arguing. So you got to ask yourself, do you want to be right, or do you want the relationship? You know, what's the bigger picture that's emerging in the conflict? What's the bigger picture that's emerging in my life right now? You know, we get bogged down sometimes in the fine print and in the details. And I think you guys know what I mean. And if you're watching on Facebook, give me a thumbs up, because the devil is in the details. And I'm sure you guys have heard that phrase. So when we talk about right view, you got to ask yourself, okay, if we're going to do this right or wrong dance, then whose view of rightness am I talking about here? You know, because I'm right in my world, you're right in your world, but we still got conflict. So what are we doing here? So we got to go deeper. And if we can do this kind of in this class, because we're playing with the information, when we go deeper than right and wrong, we're getting out of our minds, because on the level of mind and on the level of intellect, the mind is always trying to narrow down its focus, because it's always trying to put things in a box. And we're always looking at things from our lenses. So like for me, we talk about astral projection. Astral projection is learning how to see the world through someone else's eyes. It's learning how to see the world through someone else's eyes. So when I get out of my perspective, someone said no judgment. When I drop my judgment and I drop out of the intellect and I drop into the heart, there's a bigger picture that's always emerging. And sometimes that bigger picture is, especially when you have conflict, that both people want to be loved, that both people want to be heard, and both parties want to be validated. They want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to be felt, and they want to be accepted. When what if we're talking about a bigger perspective, what if there's rightness in both of us? What if, based on my world and your world, we both are right? But it's not my world and your world that we're talking about. The key is when we recognize that, because both of us have now come together, we're co-creating a brand new world. And so what right view asks us to do is to drop our sense of rightness and then ask ourselves, what is emerging right now? Because the rightness that I have got me to this point, but that's past experience. The new experience is what is emerging now that I'm with you. Now that I'm with you. Jesus said, where two or three are gathered together, I am in the midst. That I is a new reality. That I is a new experience. So many of the scholars, like, and I talk about him a lot. He's the father of Uma Thurman from Kill Bill, Robert Thurman. He calls it realistic view. And I'm going to share my screen in a second so that you guys can see some of the little charts that I have here, and this will help to break it down. So you guys can see that this here is a chart. So right view is to know the truth, and that's one description, but we've substituted right view for realistic view, for dropping judgment, for getting out of the mind, for letting go of my meanness, Because when we get into our meanness, then everything, I'm always right. You know, it's always my way or the highway. Look at that duality. My way or the highway. But I can't figure it out. Because I can't figure it out, then it must not be solvable. But when I add another I, another element, another human face of God, then it challenges my perception and it challenges my truth. Because what we're talking about here is my perspective. This is how it is right for me. So right view, if we have to use those dualistic terms, we're talking about not the right view that emerges, but we're talking about what's right for me. So if me and my best friend were in conflict and we're going back and forth, the greater picture when we drop into the heart is what's trying to emerge now. Because even though I'm saying something and they're saying something, I'm really only talking about what's right for me. And then they're talking about what's right for them. So beyond the field of right and wrong, Rumi said this, that there's a greater I that's emerging. And this I is divine. And what makes this I divine is because it's an I of our own creation. It's an I that we both are giving birth to. It's an I that did not exist until me and you have come together. So when two or three gather together, there's always an I in the midst, and that I, capital I, is bigger than the lowercase me. So my point of view, again, it's my own personal view, and it's a selfish point of view. Because if we want to get deeper, ask yourself this: how well have you survived with making it through the world? Some of us have made it this far and we got cuts and we got bruises. See, our point of view only gets us so far, you know? And then we reach a point in life, and we do this several times in life throughout the day, where we have to learn to surrender our view and then ask for help. Ask for help. So this is the Noble Eightfold Path. And the reason why it's called the Noble Eightfold Path is because Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, he was real slick. And what he did was he took the word noble and connected it with spiritual teachings, because noble was a title that was only reserved for the nobility. So there is something noble to spiritual practice, even though spiritual practice sometimes makes you feel like you got to eat a lot of crud. I'm gonna stop sharing for a second just so I can see your faces. When's the last time you ate some crud? When is the last time you wanted to say something and it's like, it doesn't taste good. You're holding back. Oh man, but they did this to me and I want to, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't say it. Don't say it. The intellect always wants to respond back because it's always in protective mode. You know, who has a story real quick about protective mode? I can tell you one. So today I was trying my hardest with Zoom, and Zoom was not giving me what I wanted, giving me, what I wanted. And I was trying to live stream via the app, and it didn't like my tablet. So I switched to the computer, but then it didn't like my computer quality or my camera. So I had to come out of myself, out of my view, and then I had to ask for help. And through my partner, together, we gave birth to a new experience, which was the answer. See, and I think that's where the dilemma comes in at. It is so hard to get out of your view. Who else has a story? Who else like to share? I know you got one. Who had an interesting experience today where they had to come out of their view and give up their meanness for a greater I? If you have one and you want to hop on the mic, hop on the mic. If not, you can type in the chat if it's too embarrassing. Because that's the other part. When we come out of our meanness, there's shame. And then there's guilt and embarrassment, especially when we have done it wrong. It's like, oh, what happened? I should have asked for help 15 minutes ago, but I made it worse. oh, I didn't want to let go. I didn't want to stop. I had to stay with this thing. And have you ever stayed with something and the longer you stayed, it got worse and worse? I got the answer. I'm going to try this. Nope, that don't work. I got the answer. Let me try this. Nope, you made it worse. I'm going to try one more thing. Nope, you really messed up now. Now nobody can do it because you messed it up and you didn't want to let go of the controls. Who has a story? Anybody can relate? Anybody in the class can relate? Pop up like popcorn if you want to. Miss Joan.
Yeah.
You got a story?
Yeah, I have this story that my son and his wife have a condo at Orange Beach.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out kind of accidentally that he had invited his brother from DC and his brother's housemate and her sister and the sister's daughter to come down from for the weekend. And I was so excited and I said, oh, can I come? And he said, well, there's not room because Robert's bringing 3 people. Well, you know, that condo will sleep 14 people. And my son has 4, so 4 and 4 is 8. So there's 6 more places to sleep. So I got very, very, very upset, not to him, but in private. And I cried for a week. And finally, that mantra of mine came to me: the universe is always working for my good. So at least I have the sanity to slow down and look. And we have yet to be able to come together as 2 and create something new. But just the recognition that I was attached to being right. Well, I am right. I mean, and my sister said, well, Joan, you know, you're their mother. And I said, exactly.
Right.
But just slowing down enough to say, oh, I'm attached to being right. I'm not there yet, as I said, to creating something new. I've got more work to do to let go of I'm right. But it has slowed me down and I have stopped crying.
And I understand. I'm gonna join you. I'm not gonna let you put your story out there by yourself. I'm gonna stand with you because the expectation, because that's the thing, it's so hard to drop. And this is why this is the first spoke in the wheel, because it's so hard to let go of our view because we have an expectation of how things turn out. So in Eastern thought, they say that clinging and attachment is the problem. It's the root of all evil and agitation and aggravation. But the caveat or the other side of it is, this is how we make it through the world. So we go back and forth. We have our expectation for how things are supposed to turn out, and then they don't. But it doesn't mean that we still shouldn't try. We still shouldn't give up hope, because we think sometimes the spiritual thing is just to not be attached. But if you're in relationship to another, to detach completely comes off as unloving. It comes off as unloving. It comes off as you don't care. It comes off as you're not going to be there. Yes, Miss Jamie.
So this is exactly what I'm dealing with right now. Is my daughter and I have very different views about being vaccinated or unvaccinated. And I kind of come down to this, well, I have 2 choices to make her happy in a short story. My 2 choices are be okay with her decision about not being around me or me being around my grandson, or go get vaccinated. Those are my 2 choices. So me choosing to be okay with what she has decided has really upset her more, because it looks as if I don't care. It looks as though I am detached. I am choosing my decision over her and my grandson. So I'm having a very difficult time explaining that I am at peace with it. I am okay. Now, I wasn't at first. It took me a minute, but I am okay with what is.
Mm-hmm.
And what she said to me the last time we talked is that I'm being selfish and not because I'm not kind of getting into the drama of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm not even sure how to respond.
Mm-hmm. I think that's actually a good place. And as crazy as it sounds, there's some things in life that are mysteries. They're sacraments, and they're not supposed to be solvable overnight. So it's a constant back and forth. There's a scripture in the Old Testament that says that Jacob wrestled with an angel. And at the end of that wrestling, his name was changed to Israel. And anytime you see El at the end of the name, it's divine. It's one of the names of God. Something happens to us when we wrestle with things. And wrestling doesn't mean fighting and arguing, but it means staying in the game. Staying in the game. John Shelby Spong, who was one of my mentors, he told me a bunch of stuff about ministry and all kinds of other stuff. But after he transitioned, I looked at his funeral processes, and he was an outspoken Episcopal bishop. There were people in his church that were members of his church for 30 years that adamantly disagreed. One of his most ardent people that was against what he was saying and his doctrine and teachings actually spoke at his funeral. And he said this, he said that I didn't agree with what he said, but I loved the man. So I was a member of his church and disagreed with him for 30 years, but I stayed in the church, and I'm speaking today because he put me down to speak at his funeral, and I loved the man. So we can have a disagreement and I can still love you. We can reach a point where there's conflict and I don't understand, and we can agree to disagree, but I can love you anyway. And here's another one. I love you enough that I'm going to allow you to be mad at me. I love you enough that I'm going to allow you to be mad at me, because with right view, I know for me, it irritates me when folks are upset with me, but I'm learning, and it's a constant shedding. So the okay that you talked about, I can resonate with that, because for me, it's a constant okaying. I'm constantly coming to terms with it. To come to terms with it at one big whoop, for me, it won't sit right with me, because for me, it feels like it's not that big of an issue. And for big issues, it's hard for them to be resolved. So sometimes they stay question marks, and you never find out what happened with that. It's like a good movie that ends on a cliffhanger. It's like, God, I wonder what happened with that story. I don't know. Will we find out? I don't know. Let's watch it again. And so we come back to it, and we talk about it, and we talk about it, and we talk about it. But that acceptance work is accepting the fact that I love you anyway, that your view is different from mine, because each of our views got us to where we were. And our views come out of our life experiences and our intelligence and our wisdom. But I love you even though you disagree with the fact that I'm trying to make peace, or you disagree with the fact that I'm disagreeing with you. And in all the disagreements, there's a greater truth. What's the greater truth? I love you. I love you. You're mad at me, but I love you still. And you're going to be okay. Why? Because there's cake, there's ice cream. I'm going to cook. I'm going to bake. There's a bigger picture that's always emerging. And here's one of the things that I'm chewing on even today. Just because I disagree with you, or you disagree with me, it doesn't mean that I love you or you love me any less. Just because you disagree with me or I disagree with you, it doesn't mean that I love you any less. Now, I may not like you right now. You may not like me right now. We might need some air between us, a little contrast therapy, but I still love you. And I think that returning back to love, like Ms. Jones said, is a mantra that we constantly do it, because there's just some things that we can't just put a check mark by and say it's done, because it might be done for us, but the other person is still in the muck and still in the mire. And so coming back to love is my willingness to stay in the game, even though our views are opposed. And that takes work. And I'm gonna tell you, it makes sure I'm still holding myself. It makes you, because I feel it makes your body tired, and it makes you sleepy and it makes you hungry because it affects your nervous system. But here is the spiritual principle. If we are the sons and daughters of light, and we got the true teachings, and we're the city set up on a hill that can't be hid, then we got the responsibility. Somebody has to be the bigger person here, which is why I talk about in the beginning that this right view, this realistic view, what's realistic right now, sometimes you gotta take one on the chin, just because it's like, but I know the truth. They don't care about returning to love. They don't want to hear that. But you know what? I gotta be that, because I know this is the way. I know, but this is the way. And so what we do is we find points where we do agree and we connect there, because sometimes points of disagreement are never resolved. They're just unsolved issues. And with that point, let me share my screen real quick, because that takes us back onto the wheel. And one of the things that you guys will notice is that with this wheel, all of these are connected together because they're interrelated. So we were supposed to last week talk about right view and then right intention. And today is supposed to be right speech and right action. But they're so interconnected that it's hard to talk about just one and you actually end up in the other. So real quick, just to hop into right intention and connect it with right view. With right intention or realistic intention, like Ms. Jones said, when we drop out of the conflict, or when we drop out of the disagreement, or when we drop out of the misunderstanding, and we look at our expectations and we look at our intentions, we get curious and we ask ourselves, what do we expect to happen here? What do we hope to happen here? And then how will it leave me if what I hope for doesn't come out? What if it doesn't all come out in the wash? What if it's not solvable? And so I start to learn through my disagreements about me, things that I would not have known had I just stayed by myself. Let me put some flesh on that. Sometimes conflict it's almost inevitable, because we crash into each other all the time, because there are just things that we don't know about each other. Even if you were to ask me, well, tell me your trigger points, tell me the things that really make you mad. I can only tell you as much as I can recall at the time, but the rest happens with experience. So sometimes I bump into you and you bump into me. And so I ask myself, what's my intention? And then free your mind of evil. Here's the caveat. How can I know this intention, but also free myself from it? How can I have the intention? And this is tough to do. It's almost like a psychological therapeutic trick. How can I have the intention, but then free myself from being captive by it? Stop sharing my screen for a quick. Freud used to tell all of his pupils that if you want to be a good therapist, you have to learn to listen without keeping anything in mind. That's hard to do, because when I'm listening to you talk, I'm thinking about my response and I'm thinking about what you're saying. So it's about making room. And so what the Buddha did was, once he learned that the best spiritual practice is to engage the world, because that's where all this stuff came from. He left his mother died when he was 6 weeks old. And so his father, him being a prince, decided to keep him away from hurt, harm, and danger, sickness, and old age, kept him in the palace and protected him from the world. One day he looked out of the window, very similar to Solomon. Solomon in the Old Testament said he was looking out of his window one day and saw some things. And we do that sometimes. We see the real world and we see people as they are. It's like, ooh, people aren't as nice as I thought they were. So the Buddha looked out his window and he went chasing after it. When he left the palace, he had a wife and child there. So he did the very thing to his wife and child that was done to him. He left his wife and child parentless. And the unfortunate part is we know ourselves to a degree, but life is constantly unfolding. And when we look at, like how Ms. Jones said, what's happening, it shows us more about ourselves than it does about the people that are in our worlds, if that makes sense. So the Buddha went out into the world, left his wife and child in the same way that his mother left him at 6 weeks old. He went out into the world, he did all these spiritual practices and fasted and all that other stuff. And then he sat down under the Bodhi tree. And you know what actually made him wake up? He had a vision of his mother, and it made him go back to the wife and child that he had forsook, because it was too hard. It was too complicated. It was too messy. It was family drama. It was me being a dad and stuff going on in the palace and my job, and I have to rule and I have to listen to my father and I have to be responsible and do all these things. And sitting out under the Bodhi tree, he used his spiritual practice to try and escape the world, but then he had a vision of his mother, which made him go back. And so leaving and then coming back to the hard thing, that's how we show love. Because when he went back, he had no idea what that wife had in store for him. No idea. So he told his disciples that were with him, leave her alone. She fussed, and in some traditions, Robert Thurman says she cussed him out. How dare you leave me? How dare you? And people feel that with us too. When we leave them, you know, it's like, wait a minute. I need you to stay here arguing with me because I ain't finished talking yet. Don't you leave. I had enough. I'm gone. I need to take a step back. But believe it or not, leaving and coming back is how we show love. Staying in the game is so hard to do. So our spiritual teachings challenge us to stay in the game. But I don't have the answer. That's okay, stay in the game. Because here's a nugget that I'm learning. Your presence being there says a lot. Sometimes I can't explain my love to you. I can't articulate it, but I can show it to you by me being here. I'm gonna give you about 5 more seconds to call me a bad name. I'm gonna give you 5 more seconds to be angry that we got to change the subject, but I don't have the answer. You don't have the answer, but I'm here. Can we all agree to that? And God knows, I know, ooh, God, I know what that's like. I have disagreed with so many people. I mean, and just, oh my God. And here's the thing, you know it's sent by God when it's the ones that make you go, oh, that's the lesson. That's the lesson right there. The ones that you can just, oh, that ain't nothing. But it's the ones that make you go, oh, if I could just, oh.
So Jesse, is right intention the same idea as like having in mind what I expect the outcome to be, or okay.
It's realistic intention, because when we dig deeper in that, we ask ourselves, this is what I intend to happen, but am I being realistic about this? When I say no to them, they're going to really be upset. No, they'll be okay. They all right. They all right. You're not being real. Listen, when you tell them no, you know what is going to break loose. And we got to prepare ourselves for that, because it's human nature. You know, it's human nature to feel, and people emote. Now, I'm not talking about being nobody's punching bag, you know, because, you know, we all have our limits. But the notion of watching my expectations, but not being imprisoned by them. So I have an expectation for them to react like this, but in case they don't, I'm also prepared for it. Because the other part of it is the reason why it hurts so bad is because I didn't expect them to react like that. Anybody ever had that? Where you expected the conversation to go this way, and the conversation took an unexpected turn, or something came out of my mouth that wasn't supposed to come out. Well, listen here, let me tell you something. I gotta give you a piece of my mind. Huh, you ain't gonna talk to me like that. I don't know who you think you are. Let me tell you something about yourself. The real us comes out in conflict, not the person that we pretend to be. And that's the person that God wants. God wants this person. You know, God don't want, God don't want that person, because the work is, that's where the work is, on the level of personality, on the level of attitude. Now, when we are honest, I ain't there yet. I'm gonna tell you, I ain't there yet. I get mad with the best of them, but meditation isn't to get rid of anger. The anger is the meditation. That's what the Eastern thought does. It doesn't make us get rid of it. It makes us get real with it. I'm mad right now. Okay, good. Now you can do some work. Why are you mad? Because I expected it to happen like this and it happened like that. Okay, cool. Now, are there any other places in your life where you do this? And you may be like, you know what? I do this all the time. And then you smile, because it's like, had this not happened, I wouldn't have seen how I hook into things. It's like, oh, I see. The enemy is the inner me. Oh, I see. It's been me all along. It's not them. They ain't the problem. It's been me all along. So when conflict arises again, because you'll get the test again, you see it and you, because you change, you move, and they're like, where you at? I don't see you. And it's like, you know what? I can see why you're mad. I mean, to be honest with you, if you told me what I just told you, I'd be upset too. And I know you're probably going to be mad at me about this, but you know what? It's okay. And you start to shift, because there's some things in our life that don't move. We just find a way to relate to them differently, you know? And the hard things, we start to see them as paths to God, because we think that God is all airy fairy pie in the sky, long white beard, unconsciously. But the hard things, you know, and when we wrestle with those hard things, they change us. They pull up things that we didn't even know were there, things that were in our subconscious. And Joseph Murphy said this, the subconscious mind guy. He said that when we pray to our Father who is in secret, our Father who is in secret rewards us openly. That Father who is in secret is the unconscious. It's the subconscious mind. And so conflict is the only thing sometimes that pulls out those deep-rooted traits of selfishness, and I have to have it my way, and my view, and all of these things, and me, and it cuts it off at the root, because it dysregulates our nervous system. And then, like Ms. Jones said, we do the work, we see it. Bloop. Oh, I see you. Okay. It doesn't mean that it's going to go away, but now you're conscious of it. I like to have my way. I knew that about myself, but man, I really do. And I'm gonna tell you, I do too. I love to have my way. I love to have my way. That's why I love to propose the idea, because I already have a solution for it, you know, but it's the stuff that we can't quite sink our teeth into, that spirit is really doing the majority of the work. And that work is in the level of personality. Y'all all right? All right, cool. Let's jump into another one. So we got right view, right intention. Now let's take a look at right speech. Say nothing that hurts others. Oh, and right action. And right action. Say nothing that hurts others and right action, which is work for the good of others. Let me stop screen share real quick. Oh, does that will make you kind of like, oh, why did I come to this class? I ain't trying to hear this. Make me feel good. When is the last time you said something that hurt somebody else's feelings? I'm gonna be honest with you. I did it about an hour ago. When's the last time you said something that hurt someone else's feelings? Even if you had to tell them the truth, because sometimes your right, your view, your opinion crushes someone else, even if it's still the right thing to do. Who's got a story? Anybody got a story?
But here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I say something and you get your feelings hurt. But if it was never my intention to hurt your feelings, but you've got that hurt coming up in you, am I responsible for your feelings? I mean, truly, if I am not, it is not my intention to hurt your feelings, but what I am saying is hurting. How does this path of right speech fit into that?
That's a good one. Anybody want to take a crack at that one? That's a good, I like that one. Facebook, if you're watching and you got a comment, moderators are standing by. Who wants to take a crack at that one? Anybody? I'll jump in there. Yes, you're responsible. It's like having a car accident. You hit someone else's car, you didn't mean to, but the damage is still there. We're not talking about right or wrong. It happened. So you know what? Roshi Joan Halifax, I love her. Joanne Halifax. It's JoAnHalifax. I'm gonna type her name in the chat. She says this: don't beat yourself up about the bad things that happen. God didn't send them. They're just happenings. They're just facts. They happen. So when my feelings are hurt, these are the facts. If I don't acknowledge that my feelings are hurt or that I hurt someone else's feelings, then that makes me dispassionate. That makes me unconcerning and uncaring. And it's just like a flower. You know, you got to prune some flowers in order for them to grow straight.
Okay, I hear you. But then I also have gone through a long time of not taking things personally, like recognizing that. So my husband is stressed and angry and it's projecting onto me. And so I'm not necessarily taking it personally because I recognize that that anger and that stress is inside of him. And I just happen to be the one that it's pointed at. So I'm waffling between, or not quite grasping. If I don't take things personally, then I also recognize that the stuff was in him to begin with, or in her, or whatever. And I happen to trigger it. But so I'm still responsible for
what
being a trigger. You know?
Oh, this is a good one. I like this one. I'm gonna say yes. Now, here's the thing. So I'm aware that you're crying. I'm going to hand you a tissue. I understand it was rough. If you did that to me, it would hurt too. So I'm going to be with you in the hurt. Did it have to happen? I'm not sure, but it's a mystery. So I'm going to handle it delicately because my mind wants to find out whose fault it was. And my mind can do that. But if I get underneath the fault finding part, If I get all the way to the bottom and I come back to love, I just notice that someone's hurt. Who did it? I don't know. The Buddha said this: if a man comes to you on fire, do you ask who lit him up, or do you put the fire out? It's like Jesus. Jesus said that there was a man that was brought to him by his disciples that was born blind, can talk. And his disciples asked him, they said, whose fault is this that this man was born blind? His or his parents? Jesus said, what does it matter? Get the guy some glasses, help him to see. Because what's important is that someone is hurting in that moment. Now, the truth, realistic, is that in life, people's feelings will get hurt. Right or wrong, this will happen. My compassion kicks in is that I know I'm responsible. I know I did it. To be honest with you, I'll do it again, but I'm here for you. And it sounds mean, but the truth is, when we get beyond blame, when we get beyond our view, when we get beyond right or wrong, the mind wants to say, bloop, it's done. But where you're at, Miss Jamie, is actually a good spot, because the wrestling back and forth, see, life wants you to feel like you're a part of the game. So there's some questions you'll never have the answer to. You're supposed to sit in the question and sit in the experience. Does that make sense to everybody? You're supposed to be there, because my mind wants to say, that wasn't my fault. I ain't owning that, and I will. But if I stay there with you and get beyond finding fault, I can recognize, yeah, you're angry. Yeah, you had a rough childhood. I'd be angry too. Yeah, I said some things. Yeah, you said some things. Or you know what? You're absolutely wrong and you're a butthole. Excuse my French. But here's the key. Your feelings are hurt. So I'm going to drop the blame. I'm going to drop who did it. And I'm going to be with you, because there's a hurting person. And what these teachings do is they make our heart hard and soft at the same time. So we become like water. We can turn to ice or we can melt. And that's where life wants you. When you're in the game of life, you get scratched. When you exit the game of life, you watch others get scratched and you stay clean. It's hard to get in the game with someone, Ms. Jones.
Okay, I think I understand what Jamie's saying. Let me say this. My sister was married to a paraplegic, and she was out in the yard doing garden work, and he was taking a shower, and he fell in the floor. And he yelled and yelled and yelled for her, and she never heard him. He yelled and yelled and yelled. And he was a pretty independent guy, but he couldn't get up this time. So I don't know if it was 10 minutes or 30 minutes, but by the time she came back in the house, his frustration level was really high. And he started yelling at her. Why didn't you come in here? I was yelling for you for 30 minutes. And she took a deep breath and said, Philip Johnson, don't you yell at me like that. I didn't do anything wrong. And I understand your frustration. I'd be frustrated too. Now let me help you get up and help calm you down. But you're not going to yell at me about that. Now, to me, that's not taking responsibility, because she didn't do anything wrong. Her responsibility is to try to be compassionate and to understand what he's going through, which she did. But she didn't let him get away with, it's your fault. And I think that was very, very healthy.
That is very healthy. And it's like what you said, responsibility is the ability to respond. So God puts it on you to decide, at what level are you going to respond? What is your, I can't take this -o meter? What is your, I'm gonna set them straight? Let me ask you this. Can you set them straight without saying, I'm going to set you straight? Can you set them straight, and can you set the boundary while still remaining in love? Because sometimes we get in love 85%, and 15% is, I'm going to smile and help you, but I'm going to tell you about yourself first. God is saying, can you take this out and just help? Like me, I'm a social worker. I get cussed out 5 times a day. But you know what? As a social worker, you have to smile. Some of us will cuss you out too. Others of us will set the boundary, dig deep. Every day, I ain't got it. I got it 5 minutes of the day. And I'm talking about after I've called my mother, I've called my partner, I have prayed, I have meditated, I have done affirmation work, and I dig deep. And something in me says, okay, how can I help? That eating of the sin, like we did in the beginning, that inhaling the negativity and breathing out the positivity, it's hard work, and there's no perfect way to do it. Some days it's like, oh, you let them talk to you like that? But the truth is, I didn't. Why? Because my responsibility is to first manage my conversation, and then not to get down there in the gutter with them, because I'm standing up and they're in the gutter. So let me ask you this. Can I help you without getting down there in the gutter with you? I'm mad, I'm angry, I want to, but can I self-regulate and then help at the same time? Some days I can't self-regulate. Some days it's like, I'm gonna cuss you out too. You cuss me out, then I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna tell you about yourself, and then I'm gonna help you. But have you noticed this, and be honest with you, that people who are angry with you are less likely to accept your help when you get down there with them and go back and forth? Because here's the thing, they expect themselves to be like that, but they don't expect you to be like that, because you said you're a child of God. So now they're saying, they're just as ugly as I am. They can get down with the best of them. And that's where the rubber meets the road. Now, it's not easy. It is not easy. And don't feel bad when you can't do it every day, because to be honest with you, nobody can, but we set the bar high so we can come up, instead of lowering the bar to make us feel comfortable. Because if I lower the bar to make myself feel comfortable and to give myself an excuse, then where is God in the end? Where is good in the end? Because how can we help a world that's burning and that's on fire? It's going to be angry. It's going to scream. It's going to cry out because it's in pain. Am I going to respond to the pain, or am I going to respond to the light that's beyond the pain? And that is hard work. But you know what? You got it in you. You got it in you, and you can do it. And it's 7:59. And I want to thank you guys for joining me on this week. I want you guys to come back next week with your questions and your stories. I can't wait to share with you and jump onto 2 more spokes of the wheel. And if this message blessed you and enriched you, please go online to unity.bham.org and click on giving. You can donate with PayPal. You can donate with Breeze. You can set it on automatic. And if you're watching on Facebook, moderators are probably posting it in the chat as well. Go to www.unitybham.org and click on giving. And please donate to this work. We all are out here, living the truth that we know. And you know what? Truth is hard. And some days we don't measure up. But you know what? That's okay. Because instead of me judging myself and beating myself up, I'm going to let Spirit help me to boost that which is within me, that wants to go back and forth with you. Because there is a light that's inside of me that's greater than the anger that I feel that's on the tip of my tongue. And this work makes you go to the light, because you realize life and death is in the power of your tongue.
Can you stay on 1 minute? Because I want to ask you something.
Yes, ma'am. I can stay on 1 minute. Thank you guys so much. Let's go ahead and end the live streaming.